Hello, welcome to Encore and this week's film show. I'm Richelle Harrison Plesse. Thanks for joining us. Coming up, Natalie Portman shines as America's most famous First Lady. Jackie explores loss and legacy and the making of the legend of Camelot. On stage, she was a glamorous diva, but off stage, her life was rocked by turmoil and tragedy. The story of iconic French-Italian chanteuse Dalida hits the silver screen. And the prestigious Cannes Film Festival hands the top job of jury president to Spanish director Pedro Almodovar. And joining me to talk about those films and lots more is France 24's film critic Lisa Nesselson. Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. Now, we kick off with Jackie, which opens in French theatres this week. It explores Jackie Kennedy's darkest hours in the wake of the 1963 assassination of her husband, JFK. Natalie Portman plays the title role, and the critics are raving. Lisa, you're one of them.
That's true. Portman's now Oscar-nominated performance is superb. But of course, the real Jackie played her part even more magnificently, refusing to remove the outfit that was splattered with her husband's blood and brain matter, thinking carefully about how to break the news to her two very young children, coping with going from First Lady to, well, what exactly, and planning a funeral of solemn grandeur. I have to say, the three most traumatic events on U.S. soil in my lifetime are the assassination of John F. Kennedy in November 1963, the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2001, and the ushering in of ignorance and intolerance that began on November 8th. I'm as fond of an idiotic slogan as the next person, so with the help of this artifact, I would like to move to Make America Plate again. Make America Plate. Now I just have to stop by Walmart, pick up a wall, I'm all set. Jacqueline Bouvier, later to be Mrs. Kennedy, spent a year here in France as a young woman, and she brought culture with a capital C to the White House. Here is a glimpse of the film and Miss Portman on her role.
I believe that the characters we read about on the page end up being more real than the men who stand beside us.
Of course, emotionally, it's such an extreme experience that she went through that's almost impossible to relate to because, you know, you have grief in your life, you have tragedy, but this is on such an epic scale, on such a worldwide stage.
I'm guessing you won't allow me to write any of that.
No. Because I never said that.
Now, Lisa, Pablo Larraín was behind the camera, a Chilean director working in English for the very first time.
The incredibly talented Larraín's previous films have centered mostly on the lives of men. Here he not only nails the details that would be important to any American, he tells the story as if he senses what it's like to be a woman. He taps into Jackie's bottomless dismay and also her ability to summon the wherewithal to infuse grandeur, her sharp understanding of how to provide a form of solace to a hurting nation while attempting to cope with personal grief. I've heard it said that people all over the world should really be able to participate in U.S. presidential elections because the person who wins isn't just in charge of the United States. They're sort of a de facto president for the whole planet.
Far-reaching consequences.
I think, indeed. And I think maybe some of my fellow citizens don't have a full grasp of how the American prestige and presidencies, such as those of JFK, with its elegance and self-deprecating humor, contributed to that. I was very young when JFK was shot, but I definitely remember how upset the grown-ups were, and also that all the cartoons had been canceled because there was nothing but the funeral on TV. Jackie is a fascinating examination of the 4 days after JFK was shot.
Well, I can't wait to see it, perhaps this weekend. Another biopic out this week in France and soon several other countries is Dalida. The Egyptian-born Italian-French singer was the ultimate tragic diva. She was A massive star in her heyday, Lisa, but beyond the glamour, her private life, it was very much rocked by turmoil.
You know, when George Michael died, I was surprised to hear that he had sold 100 million albums. But it turns out that Dalida sold 170 million. So a lot of vinyl died in order to carry her rather good singing voice all over the globe. When Woody Allen is taken to task for mostly making movies about privileged white people, he says that he's drawn to that because even if people are rich, they can still have lots of problems. Now, this is a true story that shows us that even people who are incredibly successful can still be deeply sad and dissatisfied. That's not a major insight, but Dalida did have way more than her fair share of tragedy. Here's an introduction.
The song Bambino, Dalida's most famous single, played to perfection by Italian actress Sveva Alviti. Alviti's faultless performance allows us to retrace the footsteps of one of the most famous French singers of the 20th century. Born in Egypt to Italian immigrants, she is elected Miss Egypt in 1954 before traveling to France, where she obtained world fame with Bambino.
Ta musique est plus jolie que tout le ciel de l'Italie.
She was a complete artist, someone who sang with true emotion, and she embodied her songs.
Dalida quickly became an international star, selling over 120 million albums. But behind her flamboyant lifestyle was a woman who felt desperate and alone. The film follows Dalida's eternal search for true love. Her first marriage to Lucien Maurice, her producer, ended after a few months after the desires of the artist clashed with those of the woman.
Je t'aime, tu sais que je t'aime. Mais ton histoire d'amour, elle est aussi avec le public.
Et avec toi. D'abord avec toi. Je veux te préparer à dîner. Avoir un enfant. Être une femme normale.
Mais toutes les femmes normales rêvent d'être comme toi.
Moi, je rêve d'être comme elle.
I always went from one man to another because I was looking for but never found true love.
In 1966, she finally seems to have found the right man, Luigi Tenco, an Italian singer, but days after they announced their engagement, Tenco committed suicide and was found by Dalida. Her life then plummeted into an abyss. She herself attempted suicide in 1967. Her comeback was acclaimed in France, and she became an icon of love and despair. In 1987, in her Montmartre home in Paris, and at 54 years old, Dalida took her life and said farewell to the world. She left a note, "Life is unbearable, forgive me." Although her personal life will be tarnished with unending sadness, she will be forever remembered for her musical genius, her showmanship, and her glowing smile.
Well, her life story sounds like perfect movie material, but is it any good? Is the film any good?
Not particularly. The period recreations are fab. The 60s, 70s, disco in the 80s. The performances are very good, but it just sort of lacks a creative spark. She comes across as sweet and vulnerable, very hardworking, smiling through the tears. I'm glad I saw it, but it's kind of hard to recommend to somebody who isn't already a hardcore fan.
Well, perhaps I might go and see it. I mean, after all, it does appeal to my inner showgirl. Let's move on now. The countdown to the 70th Cannes Film Festival is on. Lisa, the jury president, was announced this week.
Pedro Almodovar will incredibly be the first Spaniard to ever head the jury. He's an original artist with international stature. He's 67. He's been making movies since 1974. Working exclusively in Spanish, Almodovar has continually paid tribute to the spirit of classic Hollywood melodrama. At his best, his movies are funny, they're dark, they're subversive, and what's for sure is that absolutely nobody else on earth could have made them. My personal favorites are Matador and Talk to Her. Most people love Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, which didn't do that much for me. 5 of his films have been in competition in Cannes, and his Bad Education opened the fest.
I love
not
that
competing.
one.
Excellent film
Gael
in
Garcia
2004. Some people think it's newsworthy that he has never won the top prize, the Golden Palm. But 2 films he did win Cannes prizes for were Best Director for All About My Mother back in 1999 and Best Screenplay for Volver in 2006, which also got a collection collective prize for the women in the cast. Yeah, bad education, pedophilia,
Okay, Lisa, from Cannes to Clermont-Ferrand now, this city in central France is hosting the International Short Film Festival. It's often dubbed the Cannes of short films. Tell us more.
I think that's an accurate description. This is the 39th edition of the world's most extensive festival devoted exclusively to films under 60 minutes in length, and I am wearing this 19-year-old, slightly dingy T-shirt in preparation for my 22nd
Rocking
visit.
the vintage threads today, Lisa. Well done.
I have to say, this is about what one wears to the festival. It is an absolutely low-key, egalitarian event. It is the only festival I know of where there is such demand for the closing ceremony that they actually put it on 3 times in a row in an auditorium that holds 1,500 people for short films. The programmers received almost 8,000 entries, 1,700 of which were French, and they picked 163 films to show in all. The programmers note that this year there are a lot of films with weapons in them, guns, rifles, bombs. Something I would like to share about how it is possible to be wrong and completely change your mind. When the festival added the Labo section for digital work 16 years ago, I was opposed. For me, that wasn't really film digital. However, for quite a few years now, I would say that this section, Labo, has actually become my absolute favorite. So think about changing your mind about things that you think are set in stone. They'll be showing 30 films from 15 countries, and the jury for that section is all female. This year, the special theme is black humor. After Sweden last year, Colombia will enjoy the spotlight. I have to say, Clermont-Ferrand hosts an enormous festival market. New countries attending for the first time this year include Egypt, Ukraine, Estonia, and the island of Réunion. 3,500 professionals attended last year. We're still talking about short films. Other unusual highlights include their version of a drive-in held in their Olympic-sized swimming pool, so people put on their bathing suits, sit in an inner tube, and watch movies on the screen. It's a little
sounds like fun.
Steamy and hot. The festival on February 8th, the organizers estimate that they are going to welcome their 3.5 millionth film goer, and at the first edition 39 years ago, they sold 1,205 tickets. So success.
Well, there you go. Well, we'll leave you with a taste of the Clermont-Ferrand International Short Film Festival, which runs until the 11th of February. Thanks again to our film critic, Lisa Nesselson. For more arts and culture news, head to our website and connect with us on social media. Stay with us here on France 24. Lots more after this.